Welcome to the Scuttlebutt on 89.1 KNSJ Descanso, San Diego's only military radio hour, with your hosts, Maximus and Van, bringing you news, stories, and interviews from and for the military and veteran community of San Diego.
What's up, guys? Maximus here with another episode of the Scuttlebutt Show, and I'm extremely excited. Today we have Mike on the show with us. Mike, how's it going?
Doing good. Glad to be back again.
Yep, so you guys know Mike. And then our special guest today is Randy Sarmiento of Eagle One CPR. Randy, what's up, man? How are you?
Good to go.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So for everyone who's just starting to listen, the beginning of our episode, I'd like to introduce the special guest, and why you're here today. So you're, again, Randy Sarmiento. Your main company is Eagle One CPR, and you are a Navy veteran, right?
Yep, Navy veteran,
and
foreman.
Yep. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your service.
Yeah, served 10 years as a Navy corpsman. Did blue side stuff, also green side stuff. So I was also with the Marine Corps units. Learned tons through. Had lots of fun with the good old green side Marine Corps units, and got out 2010. Started doing corporate world stuff. I became a director of operations for a couple clinics, and then unfortunately laid off and had to do something new. And all of a sudden something came up, and as I was doing my GI Bill, I started a business teaching first aid CPR, and thought that I was just going to be a counselor for the rest of my life. Right after getting out of my counseling program. And I started emailing people who I taught CPR and first aid to, so a couple of clinics here and there, and they would not let me shut down my business.
It's a good problem to have. It's a very good problem to have.
Yeah, not bad.
They wouldn't let me shut down my business. So just kept on teaching, and now we're actually the #1 reviewed in San Diego and across Southern California, moving on through that. So yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I'm actually on your website right now, eagle1cpr.com, and it says #1 reviewed, 5-star rating, Yelp reviews. And, Yelp reviews are interesting because they can go a lot of different ways, and people can manipulate them. And sometimes there's people out there who will say negative things just because. So to maintain a perfect rating on Yelp and have only positive comments, I think that's really impressive. It says a lot. And tell us a little bit about why you think that your company is doing so well and so highly has so many favorable reviews, and what is it about you that you and your instructors bring to these events that makes people like it so much?
Not a darn thing. It's just I just taught how I taught my Marines and sailors, straight to the point, stupid and funny, zero videos, get to the hands-on stuff. Really that. I thought that's how everybody was teaching, and I found out. I come out of the military, and I thought that was just a normal way of teaching. And I found out that people are just showing videos, handing mannequins, just passing tests and whatnot, as far as written and whatnot. So we just want to bring the practical, real life stuff to people, and so that's what I did, and had fun with it, because you have to have fun, right? I always knew that if I lost my Marines, guess what? They're falling asleep on me. They don't want to trust me with anything. They haven't learned nothing. And I just screwed up my own job, right? And so, yeah.
Do you think that is it harder to teach a group of sailors or Marines or civilians?
That's a good question. I feel as though probably the civilian side, because I think a lot of them went through it already. So a lot of them come from the background, I've already seen this, done this sort of thing as well too. And then all of a sudden I come in telling them, okay, this is what you have to do. And for example, I realize that a lot of people don't teach the classes. So what I do is actually teach the class. I actually get into the anatomy of things, right? And they're like, you're going to waste your time doing anatomy. They're never going to remember that. But if you understand what's happening within the body, then you can actually better help them, So, for example, I told people, and I would ruin movies all day long. I told people I'm a myth buster for CPR and first aid. Okay, you can't just pump on top of their chest and then get up and go, "Oh, thank you so much. Let's go run through flower fields together."
Wait,
right?
you can't?
No, you can't. Right?
Okay. Well, I'm basing everything I know off of the movie Crank, where he jump starts himself with a car battery or something, and then he keeps going.
So let me talk about that one. Right?
That has to be real.
Yeah, that has to be real, right? We have never, ever shocked anybody in Flatline. To ruin everybody's movies, right there, TV land, we have never, ever, will never, ever shock anybody at Flatline. Everybody's like, what the? Like, we're not saying that they're not revivable. We're just saying we never shock anybody at Flatline, right? And that just blows people's minds. They're like, so what do you do now, right? So really the idea when it comes to shocking somebody at Flatline, that nothing ever happens. The way I always give it out is this. Let's take a phone out and say, all right, just say I rip out the battery, right? I rip out the battery, no battery. I pull out the plug, no plug. No battery, no plug. Is my phone on?
No.
Right? However, I decide to plug in the battery, put the plug in there for 2 seconds, but I don't put the battery in there, and I pull out the plug. Is my phone on now?
No, I believe the phone will still be off.
Yeah, I'll still be dead, right? So why is it not on? It's because there's no continuing power source. What is the continual power source of the body? Is the brain. I need a connection between the brain and the heart before I can shock it. How do you get the connection between the brain and the heart? CPR.
Blood and oxygen.
Blood and oxygen, right? And now you start to see the. No, sorry. Now you start to see the big.
That was like an aha. That was like an aha.
Right? Oh snap! Right? Sort of thing. Like that's what people think, right? Because they're so based on movies and videos and whatnot. I'm actually bringing them the actual real stuff, so they start to see and they know how they can better help people out.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's exactly it. Like that's the way I always taught my Marines and sailors. Right. Practical, real life stuff that they can actually think. I'm actually just building upon elementary school. That's all it really is. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say we were watching your YouTube video before you came in. It's like you keep us engaged the whole time. It's short, it's sweet, to the point. It's very entertaining. It's like why can't everything be taught like that, right? It's just there's no BS involved. But that's what's great at what you do, though.
Right? We call it edutainment, right?
I like that.
Right? Edutainment. We want to entertain at the same time, just straight to the point.
Entertation.
Right? There you go. Right? Entertation.
I have a question. So how does it, when you're teaching the civilians, and does it help them report them, say, hey, here's my background, I was a corpsman in the military, and all that, and they're more receptive to you, like initially, because you have to get that buy-in with them?
I think so. You always got to start with a little bit of background about you, you know? If I just start teaching the class, like, who's this guy? Who's his background? But at least once they start to understand your background and the way you're teaching. That's why I always start every single class. Hi, my name is Randy. Let me give you a quick background about me. I'm an ex-military guy, so the way I like to teach, straight to the point, stupid and funny, right? And I start to work into that, and they start to say, you know, and I'll always tell them, a lot of people will tell you this. Well, I'm going to show you this. And they're going to kind of see where it's coming from in my background. So,
I mean, if you can teach Marines, you can teach anybody.
If you can teach the military. Well, you know, I taught a class when I was in the Navy, and teaching in the military, it's if you ever, no matter what you do, if you're listening to this, no matter what you do, if you ever get a chance to put yourself in front of people and your goal is to teach them, you will learn a lot. There are a ton of skills associated with just teaching anything. Those skills include public speaking, eye contact, projecting your voice, answering questions. Whether you've been properly trained on these things, or if you just learned them because you were doing it and it just, you do it enough and you just kind of start to figure it out. Like when you're up in front of a class and somebody asks a question, you repeat the question, you confirm that was the question, that you understand the question, you answer the question, you ask if the question was answered, and you ask if there are any follow-up questions. That's standard instructor school 101 stuff, right?
Yep.
So then when you watch somebody teach and they're doing these things, you're like, they got it, you know, they're doing a good job. So the military is a great place to learn and apply the skills you learn from just getting up in front of people, whether it's in the morning at muster. Somebody, like if you're taking the muster, right, you're up in front of people, you just start to learn, like no matter what group of people you're up in front of, it kind of is always the same. Like you're addressing a group of people, right. The same stuff kind of happens, the same rules apply, you know, for the most part. It never changes, no matter how old the people are, talking to kids, talking to adults, or, you know, senior citizens, military, whatever. A lot of that stuff it's universal. And I had a question. It was unrelated to what I just said, but now I'm trying to remember what the question was. You know what my favorite thing is when I get an email at work? It's when the first line email is bluff, bottom line up front. You know what I mean? Don't.
There you go. Right.
Here's the bluff, bottom line up front. You're about to learn CPR. Here's how you do CPR. Let's do it. Because the rest of that stuff, if you just draw it out, like we say something at my work now, and what we say is we don't train to a time, we train to a standard. So my job's not to keep you here for 8 hours. My job's to teach you something. Right. And if you learn it in 1 hour, then you've learned it, and the job is accomplished. You know, it sounds like you're kind of doing something like that, and I would definitely appreciate that a lot if I was in a CPR class, because CPR is really important. You don't think so until the moment you need it. Right? So you could go, I'm about to turn 34. I've never done CPR on a person for real. I've had a lot of CPR classes, but sometimes in the back of my mind, or like the Heimlich maneuver, or on a baby, right? I'm going to ask you some questions about this stuff that I have planned. But if you're trying to, if you have a choking baby, you might think you know what to do, but in the moment when you're about to hit them on the back, right? Mm-hmm. You'll think like, oh,
I don't hit them too hard.
Is this, yeah. Do I really know what I'm doing? Like, am I really confident? Have I done enough rehearsals and iterations of this to really believe that I'm not going to do more harm than good?
Right.
You know, so that's a lot of the important stuff that goes along with this kind of training, the first aid, CPR, life-saving, basic life support stuff that you do. Would you say that you cover all that stuff in a standard course that you do?
Absolutely. Like I said, my background of counseling actually helps so much in this. I realized it. Because I'm always thinking, what's going through their mind psychologically, right? So also in the beginning of my classes, I always start off with, first and foremost, I need you to freaking breathe. They're like, wait, why? Well, obviously, you need to breathe. It doesn't matter who you are, anybody. When there's a shock and awe factor, what do we all do?
Just tense up. Just hold your breath.
Hold your breath. And as you hold your breath, can you think nice and clearly? No. I tell people, I care less your medical training. ER, doctor, trauma surgeon, if they have to do CPR on somebody per se at a mall and they don't breathe, nothing's coming. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing is the panic mode breathing. Describe to me how panic mode breathing looks like. Right? Then you call 911, I'll do CPR. I can't think.
And they're going to probably pass out.
Right. Exactly. You can't think, right? To be honest, this is the way I taught my Marines and sailors. If a bomb goes off, I need you to freaking breathe. Why? Because I want the training to kick in. Not because they're going to do everything perfectly. Usually in a bigger class, I tell people, raise your hands if you're perfect. You got me.
One smart ass.
Yeah, smart. Right? Nobody's perfect. I'm not looking for perfection, but what telling people is just, I just need you to understand what's going on. Right? It's always about understanding what's going on and just really okay, what's going on overall, especially in the body. And that's why I actually get into the anatomy of the body. Because, Max, you talked about hitting, a child, baby, right? A lot of people do I just hit the baby? I tell people this. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? Obviously, I'm trying to get it out of there, right? Well, yeah. But as I press into the chest of the baby, when I'm holding the baby with, I got a baby real quick.
Okay. We are, if you're listening to the podcast and not haven't tuned into the videos, we're grabbing a baby, a CPR dummy. And Randy, too, can you try to talk closer to the mic or stay close to the mic when you're talking, please?
Absolutely.
We don't want to lose any of this good information.
All right.
Okay, so we got a baby. He's wearing a horizontally striped pink shirt.
Yeah, exactly. So all babies wear this, right? Absolutely. So a lot of people just simply hit the baby, right? But there's like hitting on the back. But let me tell you this. What I'm trying to do is I'm actually trying to flex the baby's lungs. And how do you do that? The key to it is this hand. The hand goes right into the center of the chest. The hand on the chest. And I hit them behind that. I'm actually squishing their lungs. So what I'm really trying to do as I hold them down here, I'm actually squishing their lungs rather than just hitting the baby. So if I told you that now, you have a little more confidence in what you're doing?
Yes.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
Right, it makes sense. Right? But a lot of people, they'll just say, just hold here,
just
and hit the baby, right? But now that I'm giving you anatomy thinking, I'm flexing the lungs because I'm really trying to squish their lungs. Hey.
I mean, you're getting a purpose for each movement that you're doing,
right?
And that matters.
And that's exactly it. It's attention to detail. And that's the way we teach, right? That's the way we always teach. So once your attention to detail and understanding, it's always the why.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And it helps people think things through better.
Yep.
Right? And so once they have the why, now they can breathe and understand what's going on. I can have confidence they can do it.
I actually, having learned this a few times, the best way that I feel like I've never heard this before because I think I would remember, but when you said what you're actually doing is squeezing the lungs, that's like the mechanism, right? I can picture that now.
Right.
So now I know, I get it more just by you saying that because that's the mechanics of what's happening inside.
Right.
I can picture it better now. But if I just know I'm supposed to hit on the back, I know the action. I know the action, but I don't know the mechanism. I don't know what's actually happening inside the body, and then I can't critically think and apply that knowledge and think of like what is actually wrong. What am I doing? If something's not going right, what am I doing wrong? Well, I don't even actually know what I'm doing.
Right.
So how do I start to troubleshoot it?
Exactly.
If I don't even know what's happening on the inside, I can't even start to troubleshoot the problem. It's like if you had a piece of equipment or something like that, like your gun's malfunctioning, right? If your gun's jammed, but you don't know how to take it apart. Well, it's going to be jammed forever.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely,
what I mean?
right?
You can't eject around, right?
Right.
Because when you're choking, you've got something stuck in your barrel, right?
Right.
So you can't eject the round if you don't know how the inside of the gun works.
Right.
So that's a great example right there of you applying that, teaching the why and the how to the process, which helps people learn so much.
Yep.
5 stars. Yelp. I got it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you got out and you're doing corporate work, were you already doing this already?
Again, I just started because I knew that I was an instructor. I just want to keep my certs up.
Gotcha.
So I just started I opened up a side business. Okay, friends, family, here and there, just go certify them. If they need it as well too. And then, it was so funny. Like, God in His grace just knew everything come at one moment and one time. And, I'm a true firm believer in nothing happens by accident. And this truly came to fruition. And, man, it was like a light bulb in my head going, this is what I should be doing. Right? Rather than just thinking it's my side gig.
Yeah.
So, there's always questions whenever you're starting a business, but
it's a crazy a mental process to make a decision. I'm gonna start this business and how I'm gonna get this to base down.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stress. There's a lot of uncertainty. You're just like, I guess I'll just figure this out. Like when me and Max, man, we're like, hey, we want to start this up. We're like, well, I guess we're just figured out as we go, but just taking that one step forward, and look where you are now. So
yep.
Yeah, and on that subject of the business and like going from point A to point B, right? So there's a lot of steps in between point A and point B. A point 1, A point 2, So so you where are you from? What's your background? Where'd you come from? And now you live in Southern California, right?
Yeah.
And do you have a family? Like, tell us a little bit about your life outside of the military and the job.
Okay. Born and raised in a small town called Spring, Texas, ultimately north of Houston, northwest Houston, about like 45 minutes out from downtown. Grew up there, small, suburban town overall of Houston. So I enjoyed that. Went to when I was in high school, I actually got into the medical field. At the age of 16 years old, I was a CNA. At the age of 18, EMTI intermediate. So that really the high school rate got
that's hard work to get to do that in high school.
Yeah. So I just got into that. And that's where the military picked me up. They came to my EMT school and said, "We'll pay for this, we'll pay for that."
They always lead. So that's a good point. I've noticed over the years that there's a lot different approach from a recruiter when they show up at a school. It's always it always starts with, well, do you have any debt or do you want to pay for any of this stuff? Like, we'll pay for it. It's always like one of the main selling points. If a recruiter shows up at like I guess I shouldn't say a school because, high school doesn't apply, but like a college or a trade school, something like that, they're always like, oh, we'll pay for all, like, you could have all this. You could own this school,
Right.
just join the Navy. We got it covered,
Right.
But it's really true too.
Yeah.
It's not a lie. But then you do your commitment, you do your time in the Navy. So you join the Navy. How long were you in?
So I did 10 years, got
Awesome.
out, And yeah, like I said, you heard a little bit of background earlier, but have a family now. My wife, my queen. I got 3 princesses on top of that. I say I win every single time because I got a full house of ladies.
Nice, nice.
Right, 4 queens. And yeah, my wife jokes around, you must have prayed to become a ladies' man because, boy, did you get it.
That's awesome, dude. Congratulations on all of that, on the family and everything. I have a question about what something you just said. You got out of the Navy at 10 years. I got out of the Navy at 14 years. Mm-hmm. It seems like, Mike, you got out of the Navy
14 years.
14 years.
Yeah.
People, did anybody try to tell you were like throwing it all away and look, you've already over the hump and all this stuff? I don't encourage people to get out of the military because I love the military. I loved every second that I was in it. I just always said if the time came where I thought I'd be happier doing something else or something else that I want to do, that I would do it. I'm not here just to retire and get benefits, Right. I love what I'm doing. I've, done 5 deployments. I've done everything and more that I ever thought I would want to do in the Navy. If the time comes that I want to move on, I will. And that's what I did. And people try to tell me, you're throwing it away. You're wasting all that time. I can't agree. I can't disagree more. I think that's totally BS. You don't throw anything away. You have an education, you have a life, you have a job, skill set, you've got, who knows what assets you've acquired in that time. You traveled around the world probably. Did anybody try to impart any of those, that kind of sour advice? Like, maybe somebody who wasn't happy with their service and they're trying to put some of that hate, or like they're afraid or they're not prepared to get out. And then how did you kind of overcome that and prepare yourself for getting out?
For me, it was, of course, you have to make the decision. And they threw all sorts of stuff at me. Well, you're going to make next rank, this sort of stuff. We'll give you a enlistment bonus, so on and so forth. And I'm like, that's great and cool. But, it was time. It's just, you kind of know it's your time. Yeah. You served well. Also, the other thing too is I was newly married, had a baby on the way. It was time for me. It's just, that was it. I decided to choose my family, right? And everybody has different ways of walking off of it as well too. But I just decided, you know what? It's the next wave. So I'm going to go do this. And yeah, to me, it was ready to go. Mm-hmm. Good to go.
Yeah. I just remember coming out 14 years, just the amount of people are like, why would you do that? You've done so much in your community. And I was just like, it's a very simple answer. Like, my heart's not in it anymore. And that was it. And I was like, if my heart's not in it, I'm not going to continue on, and that point. And once I kind of knew that was happening, I was like, well, I'm going to make a very calculated decision and prepare myself to get out.
Right.
And that's what it was. I just prepared for that because the easy part's staying in. Right. That's easy.
That's the easy. Yeah.
It's getting out's the struggle. And so I spent like a year and a half just planning my exit. Like, this is what I'm going to do, figure out what I'm going to do next. So the day I got out, I literally walked out my building, gave them my badge, did all my readouts, then woke up the next day and was like focused on what I've been preparing to do.
Right.
So I think I always tell people, like, you want to get out whenever it is in your career, just plan accordingly. Always have like some way of that you can get out, whether you're save a bunch of your money so that it comes up for orders and you don't get orders you don't like, and you have that money in the bank that you can, like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna get out. That's it. I don't have to hold on to the Navy for anything. I can do what I want to do now. So
yeah, it's always scary, right? It's always
hell yeah, it is.
To be calculate. You have to be calculative. You have to make sure that you put all your checks and balance together. But in the same time, I knew it was time. That was it. I love serving, and it's not just the reason why I joined was not just because it'll pay for everything. I always knew that there was something in the back of my mind that I wanted to join. I mean, at the age of it's Texas. At the age of 5 years old, I was shooting, 22s, I think, right? And so to me, shooting was part of life. And so, like, if I can do medical stuff and shoot, why not, right?
That makes sense. That's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer, right? And I served, and I served the best that I could. But now it's just time to move on.
Yeah. I think, so if you're listening and you're still in and you're preparing to get out, because a lot of our content a lot. When I'm asking questions, I'm thinking about somebody who's thinking about getting out as a listener. Whenever you decide to get out, if you served, whether it's 2 years or 32 years, you served honorably, you did your time, you did the amount of time that was right for you, and don't let anybody tell you that you're throwing anything away or turning your back on the team or anything like that, because you got to live your life, man. If you got a family, if you got other priorities, if your heart's not in it, it's time for you to move on and go do something else. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
The militarism machine, man, is going to keep going with or without you. So it's one of those things. It's like, it's your life, and if it's something else that you want to achieve in your life, just don't let someone or something just hold you back. Go after it. Approach it correctly. You're very calculated to give you the best chance at being successful at whatever you're going to do, though.
Yeah, that's why it's called serve, right? You're serving it. It's not like, oh, you have to do it, right?
Yeah, it's a volunteer organization.
Volunteer organization.
Randy, was there a moment where you, because now you have a business, you have employees, right? We were talking about this earlier. You have employees, you're doing real taxes, you're doing like quarterly taxes. You probably, you have an accountant and all that stuff.
Better do your taxes.
Yeah, do taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Was there a point where, that you can remember where it went from a small business, like not like you didn't have any employees, you're just doing it and you weren't totally committed to it maybe yet as a career, a turning point where then you were like, now I'm doing this, now this is my business, I'm going to make a run at this as a career, I'm going to take on clients, I'm going to seek out contracts aggressively, I'm going to hire employees. What was there a certain moment that happened, or did it kind of gradually happen and all of a sudden you look back and like, oh, I'm doing this now?
It just gradually happened. I just know that anything that I would do from the military on up, whatever I'm at, I'm just going to give it my 110%. And if I fail, at least I know I went down swinging, right? So I just, whatever, one thing about especially medicine stuff is there's always new stuff coming up and you have to learn about it. So it's always learning. And that's what I always kept in my mind. My late father told me that as soon as you stop learning, you're dead, right? And so I just kept on doing it. So next step, of course, I plan, maybe about a year out. Some people will do the 10-year plan and all that other stuff too, and I don't say it's a bad thing. But to be honest, in my mind, I always thought about it, I'm going to have to give my best today because I have no idea if my business is going to go down. I always tell people, if you're going to get into the business is not your life. It's what your passion is, right? You want to be able to enjoy it. Yeah, there are going to be hard times for it. You're going to press hard with it, but it's not your life. This is not who you're known for. You are known for your own self, for what you do for the community. You should be known for all of that. You are a different person overall, but than anybody else. But to me, that's the way I worked. That the business could go down at any moment in time, and I'm just going to give my best at it. And yeah, after a while, it was just like, here I am. I can't believe I'm here, and I just took it step by step, just because I'm not sure about you guys, but sometimes have you looked, quote unquote, looked into the future and go, okay, I need to do this and do that, and you're kind of shortchanged by about 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, 10 years, right? And then you're you get this panic attack thing going on. People are so, again, you have to plan. Absolutely. You want to plan the best you can, but you have to have plan B, Z, Bravo, Zulu, whatever, just go with it. And sometimes you have to just take a punch, Yeah.
Yeah. It's right. One thing that I had to learn was your plan is not going to be perfect.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And people you're trying to I'm not going to take that step until I have that perfect plan. But with anything, it's I was listening to, but it's they say that when you're at the 80% mark is when you take that step, because nothing's going to be perfect. Nothing's going to be complete, especially in business where everything's always going to be changing on you and you're learning on the fly as you're going. Just wait for that moment. Yeah. So, that's how I've always looked at it. And I've had to teach myself that too. There's no right moment. You just take that step and you just
ride the wave.
Yeah, you just go for it.
Right, you ride the wave. You crash a little bit here and there, make mistakes. It's just literally like riding a bike, right?
I talk about this. Mike's heard me say this. always makes me happy when we're doing something on the show, and then I can say, oh, this is like when this person said this on the show, like when we're talking about veteran stuff or military stuff, and the stories kind of cross over and the same rules apply. It means that if it happened to this person and if it's familiar to you, then it'll be familiar to the next person who's getting out. Who I'm always trying to think about, like I just said that, right? So like always trying to think about the person who's getting out and what we can do to help the future generation of veterans getting out. And it's being comfortable being uncomfortable. Right. We thrive in it.
Right.
That's the military puts you in that situation where you thrive you're comfortable with the uncomfortable, and that's what life is always going to put you in. Right. So if that's your comfort zone, if that's your baseline comfort zone, then you're always going to, do well in it. It doesn't startle you or alarm you. You have that plan B through Z, because you're used to planning the least likely scenario, the most likely scenario, the enemy's most likely course of action, their least likely course of action, the most dangerous thing. And you could apply these same things, maybe it's not always actual physical danger, but it's all the threats around business and around life, and just driving down the road or doing simple tasks. You apply the same mission planning type stuff to it, and then you succeed at the mission. And if the mission is starting a new career, then you should be fine.
Absolutely, right? Pain is a reminder that you're still alive and can accomplish the mission, right?
Yeah.
So
if you feel like you're having a heart attack, you don't need CPR yet.
Yeah, you
call 911.
So many people go, what do I do when somebody's having a heart attack? Go call 911. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't do CPR on somebody who's alive.
I mean, you could. It's frowned upon, but
yeah. And maybe you might have a little bit. I'll see you in court, sort of a situation after that.
Oh man, I don't even want to go down that road. That's how stupid or how disrespectful can you be? Somebody tries to save your life. I can't believe that's a real thing. Okay, 30 minutes in, people are probably wondering, well, wait, how do you do CPR? Tell us already, So we're gonna do some stuff later for Instagram, for YouTube. So make sure you guys head over to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the Scuttlebutt Show, Eagle One CPR. Do you have a social media network?
Yeah. YouTube, you can always check me out. So type in The First Aid Professor. That's a nickname given to me by UCSD.
I have your First Aid Professor website pulled up. I was going to ask you about it.
Yeah, that's a nickname given to me by UCSD, and it stuck. So you can check me out on Instagram, The First Aid Prof. Also, The First Aid Professor on Facebook, and then thefirstaidprofessor.com. So yeah.
What's your Instagram?
The First Aid Prof.
Mm-hmm. And so now, what is the deal with CPR right now? When was the last time it changed? Had any major changes? And what is the current standard for CPR? We're obviously not going to be able to learn CPR over a podcast, but what is the kind of if somebody hasn't done it in a few years, what do they need to know?
So ultimately, let me get over one of these misnomers first and foremost. A lot of people are saying, oh, all you have to do is just pump on top of the chest. You don't have to breathe into them anymore. False statement. We're still breathing into them. It's just that it's an adaptation to protect you from catching, I like to say, cooties. Okay? So I'm not telling you to pucker up on everybody in this whole entire world, but 30 compressions to 2 breaths is your best one. And I tell people that the reason why I'm teaching that is because when I teach my healthcare professionals, they're using these things called bag valve masks and stuff to protect themselves. So they're still breathing into them. So that's still the best. 30 compressions and then breathing into them 2 breaths. However, if you don't know them, don't have to pucker up on them. Just pump on top of the chest. And yes, you can look it up. BGs, Staying Alive, rhythm, pump it.
Dun, dun, dun,
right?
dun. Staying alive.
Staying alive. Good, quick rhythms. Just stick to it, right? Another song you can use, don't sing this out loud, okay? Highway to Hell, okay? Same rhythm. I see a lawsuit coming on after that point.
That'd be a great Instagram video. So I gave him CPR and singing this song.
Yeah, he looked like he was trying, but he was singing the weirdest song.
Right, so stick with Staying Alive is what I tell people, but just steady rhythm. The other thing, too, is that when I tell people, they're like, well, they'll tell me I have to go how many inches into their chest. Do you carry a ruler with yourself?
I just want to be alive.
Yeah, you just want to be alive, right? No, you don't carry a ruler with you. So I just tell people this: just go deep and hard enough until there's no give. Now, you're not trying to crush the crap out of them, okay? My children and infants, I rarely break ribs on them because they're just bendy and flexy, okay? Because some people, I remember they even told me that in the military. You need to go deep enough until you start breaking some ribs. I'm like, you need to calm down with that. Okay,
You need to.
Right.
It's military logic right there.
You might. Okay, I'm not saying you always will. Okay, now obviously the more older we get, we build up calcium and our elasticity is not as much. So you might hear a whole bunch of pop, crickle. Truth of the matter. However, you just need to go deep enough to flatten out the chambers to build enough pressure to get it up to the brain. Does that make sense? There you go. Just do it. Right. You just need to go till there's no give. I tell people, push hard into your thigh. There's only so far you're going to go. Yeah. I want you to go deep and hard enough to bruise and hurt that thing. That's how strong you're going to go.
Okay.
But you're not trying to cock back and crush. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But ultimately, when I need to go deep enough to flatten out the chambers, build enough pressure, get it up to the brain, it's blood pressure, man.
Just no Hulk smashing.
Right. Exactly. Right.
If someone has had CPR done on them, I'm just curious. This is I don't know how helpful this will be for anybody. If you're like receiving CPR, you probably don't really care about this beforehand. In fact, maybe even answering this question will like scare people. But if somebody's had CPR done on them, what would they wake up feeling like if they've had like 5 minutes of CPR done on them?
They'll still be in the hospital, period. It's ultimate trauma to the body. It's a necessary trauma to keep somebody alive. Like I said, you need to go deep enough, flatten out the chambers, build enough pressure, get up to the brain, and you're not just going once or twice. You're mimicking the heart. So that's what the rhythms are for, right? So you're mimicking the rhythms. You're doing that several times. A lot of times they end up with what we call rescue breathing from the healthcare professionals. We don't teach that to non-healthcare professionals because that's more healthcare professional related. But we do the rescue breathing. Why? Because they're not going to normally breathe right after they get out of doing CPR. It's not because it didn't work. It's because, A, they were literally flatlined. Nothing was happening. They didn't get a good enough oxygenation to their system, and they need to catch up. And B, you just beat the crap out of their chest, right? I'm not sure about you, but my daughters, they jump on top of my chest. I'm going, right? So that's really the best I could kind of give you an idea that they're ultimately going to be in the hospital.
Makes sense.
After, a lot of times whenever somebody gets CPR done to them, they're going to be in the hospital the next 3 to 5 more days. Make sure that they're stabilized.
It's you don't really ever think of it. Like, again, movies being misleading as they are, people get CPR, they wake up and you're like, oh, thank God you're okay.
And they start kissing and stuff like that. Like, trust me, they ain't got kissy right now. They're winded. You just beat the crap out of the chest.
And for people listening too, one thing that I thought of when you were talking about the breathing, there's not, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to give out any bad information, but there's not too many really bad things you can catch from saliva or sputum or anything, right? Like that, right? So like even like you're not going to get AIDS or anything from somebody's spit.
Yeah.
So if you are thinking about it like that, it's just like somebody at let's say an amusement park or at the mall or something like that, right? A regular person, the likelihood of you contracting some kind of really serious infection or disease, it's pretty slim, right?
It's pretty slim, right? But we don't ever want to take out and say, oh, you will never catch anything neither, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to go there neither. But obviously, I tell people, I mean, you got a homeless dude who's got blisters all over his lips. It looks like he has herpes simplex A, B, and C. Don't go there.
Yeah.
Use common sense.
Use your best judgment.
Right? Yeah.
Common sense goes a long way.
Common sense is not always common, though.
Right. That's really true. That's really true. And then we talked about the on an infant, or what's considered an infant? Like, how do you know?
Again, they say you use your fingers to go into their chest. You just want to go deep enough until there's really no give. There's only so far you're gonna go with your 2 fingers, anyways. A lot of people, they go very. Whenever my classes, I always teach like what's natural. We like to go very shallow into their chest, right? Because we feel like we might break them. To be honest, it's the children and infants that actually rebound a whole lot faster. Why? Because they're just bendy and flexy, right? we always say that if it wasn't for the resiliency of children, we would be an endangered species. We've been dropped on our heads, right? Broken a couple things.
Some of us a few times,
right?
Okay, so about the kid stuff, because I think like the most terrifying thing I could imagine you having to use this skill for is your own child. Right behind that would be somebody else's child. Right. But in a situation where it's your own child, it's probably got to be the worst thing.
Actually, I have not that I did CPR on my child, but I'll just talk about something that kind of helps people out. My daughter actually had a seizure at Sprouts at the age of 22 months old.
Oh, man.
Okay. After her seizure, she went unconscious and loose. And on that day, I had to check for signs of life on my own daughter. Now, on that day, did military medical Randy show up, or did Daddy Randy show up? Daddy showed up. Okay, I'll tell you that much, right? Daddy showed up, and I was checking for signs of life, and I'm like, calm. I just need to tell myself, calm down, breathe, just understand what's going on, right? Right about like the 5th second mark, didn't feel really anything, and then right at the 8th second mark, her chest rises to fall. And ultimately, what I tell people is that I thank goodness I gave them every opportunity to show signs of life. Because trust me, I wanted to jump in, do something, do anything and everything I can immediately, right? That's what we want to see from our family members. But that's why I tell people, like, literally, I started in the beginning of my class, I need you to freaking breathe so you can really understand what's going on rather than just wail on top of their chest, right? And so if after that point, once you start to understand, and again, if you get a good CPR class, that you're understanding what's happening within the body, you'll be able to better treat this out, or at least assess this, rather than, okay, I just memorize things. And that's why I want to feed to the humanness of this, right? I want to bring back the humanity of this, right? There's only so much you can do, but in the same time, you just want to be able to think it out. So I tell people, I need you to understand, just breathe, right? It doesn't matter who you are, right? But just take a good second and understand, right?
Yeah, that's got to be a horrible feeling,
Yeah, she's fine now.
Imagine.
She's
like good,
7 years old now.
Good.
Is the one time thing she had a seizure just out of nowhere?
Well, I mean, we eventually found out what it was. It was roseola, and her fever popped off very high, and she had a febrile seizure, what we call it. But it's never a cool feeling. But that's what I want to share with people. I made some mistakes. I want you to learn, right? It's not just necessarily just do, but just thank goodness that it's just understanding the situation, breathing, and to be honest, we know how to do this. We've been taught how to do this, but we just need that one little extra kick to really bring all the pieces together, and that's what we try to do in our classes. So,
what size is a normal class do you teach?
Less than 15.
Less than 15. Okay.
We don't ever teach a big class. Petco Park asked us to come out and do a class. Can you do a 50-person class? We go, we have the manpower to do it, but we will never do it. They're like, why? Why don't you want to do it? Because everybody else will just, because in their mind, that's ching-ching, right? Per person you get paid. I care less about that. We're really about the real stuff. We want to focus on, there's body mechanics that has to be dealt with this. There has to be understanding, what are they doing? And it's not just memorization. So, we get a little bit more deep in detail with that.
I think that's really good. I think you should 100% do it that way. I think companies would also probably appreciate the sincerity behind that too. When you say, hey, well, you as the organization have to make the decision on what level of training you want to give your people, but we're not going to shortchange you, so I'm not even going to do it unless it's this instructor to student ratio, because they just won't learn it. You know that from experience, And then you just, you give that honest information back to the company. They make the decision on what they want to do, and that's their decision to live with, not yours to scam them out of, $1,000 or whatever it is, to add in some extra students. If somebody wanted to book a class with you, how do they go about it? Like if somebody's listening, they're like, oh, we need CPR training for our company. Do they go to Eagle One CPR?
Yep,
and then
just go to Eagle One CPR, reach out to me. Reach out to me or the crew over there as well too. We'll get you situated. All of our scheduled courses are there. We're right off Sorrento Valley area, so it's really easy to get into. We used to be off the UTC area. Man, that place got so crowded. So we kind of stepped out of the UTC area, gave people a little bit extra parking and more room for us to do some classes. So, yeah.
Do you guys travel as well outside of SoCal?
We do. We have a couple contracts with like Department of Consumer Affairs, going up and down the state. So we do go up and down. Obviously, we're not going to come out for one person.
Yeah.
we would come out definitely for a group of people, company, and we'll go out there and we'll do a couple classes per, like maybe 2 classes per day, or just we'll go, couple days classes, and then because a lot of them, they want more than 100 people. And we're like, that's fine, but we're gonna chop it down, and we're gonna work one set at a time, which is about 15 people.
What's the when you tell it to people, like when you tell at the Petco Park, what's the reply back to usually? Is it kind of shows like just quality matters, but like how do they take it as a business of like we're trying to get a mass number of people in here?
I told you, they're just like, what? First and foremost, they'll always ask why, because everybody, most people will be like, yeah, well, of course we could do that, because they want the money, they want the contract, right? And of course, but we just tell them, we're a quality over quantity driven group. We want to make sure that they really understand. I tell my guys, we need to teach selfishly. Like, we know that ultimately we're not around our families. And if I trained you, say they're at Pacific Beach and you're walking around there, and then I train you and you just went over your head, then you couldn't help my own family, then guess what? I'm the one to blame for that. I always put pressure on my guys. Hey, you need to teach well.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about for your business, something that we were talking about earlier, and I see it on your website here. So as a veteran owned business, right? What was the process like for doing the state and federal service disabled veteran business paperwork stuff? What would you tell? What was that like for you? And then what were some lessons learned from that?
Okay, first and foremost, is a pain in the butt. Okay, to get those certifications. But you know what? It was nice. Like, you get technically brought to the top of the list. Every major company will have a 3% set away for certain small businesses, especially disabled veteran-owned businesses, so on and so forth. What they'll also say, micro small businesses, so on and so forth. And I literally get emails straight sent to me now because I'm part of that list. From being federal side, so certified, service disabled veteran-owned small business, that's the federal side, and then on the state side, California disabled veteran DVB business enterprise.
DVB, disabled
DVB.
veteran business enterprise. Yeah.
Always continue learning new acronyms, right?
Yeah.
Never stops.
Yeah. Literally, I get emails now. Just, hey, send in a quote. We'll send in the best quote we can, but at least we're recognized that we're part of that percentage now. And anybody who's starting the process of doing it, yes, it is a lengthy process. You would think you just hand them your DD-214. Here's my business, and here I am. So and so much percent disabled. You would think you would just give that. No, they start searching through my tax records for like the past 3-4 years and stuff like that. I had to send in other little things as well too, but just think about it as just being back in the military again, is what I tell people. You'll always send in a chit. It'll always get rejected. You send in extra stuff or loss, right? And then they'll be like, okay, well, now you need to send this. Okay, good to go. I'll send that. Okay, now you need to send this. And there's at the end of it, it's going to be like, hey, you know what? You got it all there. But at least you started the process, what I tell people, right? Start the process. If you're looking to get contracting, especially that allotted percentage, there is money for you guys, but allotted for you guys to get some money from, if you bid right. Again, is the other way too, but you're gonna be at the top of the list for that. And in any kind of business, being at the top of the list is fantastic, right? So do it, and so I tell people. And it's frustrating. I think we were talking earlier, as soon as a 202 number shows up, Washington, D.C. picks up, hey, guys, I'm teaching a class, time out. I need to pick this up right now. Because if you miss that phone call, you're going to play phone tag for the next, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
So D.C. called, or in California, it's Sacramento. If Sacramento phone number shows up. A couple times, so it was like a couple friends from Sacramento. Nah, man, shut up. No, I need to teach a class. You get out of here, right? But it's it's a process, but I think it's worth it. Definitely worth it.
Yeah. What are your next steps for your business now, as you're moving forward?
Next step for the business, it's kind of on cruise control. Right now, I'm just gonna kind of keep it on cruise control. I don't want to think too hard, too much. But recently, on my end, I've kind of taken the name First Aid Professor and moved to a different direction. So people have been asking me to speak on starting up businesses and stuff like that. So I've been speaking, I've been doing a lot of speaking stuff recently. So that's kind of one thing. But really, my heart has been always for the families. And so what I'm trying to take the brand of First Aid Professor and bring it out to the families. We're realizing that the families are the ones that are not trained, right? Military trained, people are trained, and so on and so forth. But when it's coming down to the families, that's where a lot of them are missing, because we get it. Kids, you can't always find a babysitter, so on and so forth. I'm actually going to people's houses now and teaching classes, because I feel that's what they need, and especially in the comfort of their house. My first thing, I walk into the house and all right, guys, bring me your first aid kit. And they're like, what first aid kit, right?
And then, that sounds very current. That sounds like a very current thing to do. Like, everything is delivered now, Like, you could probably Postmates some CPR training, it'd probably be garbage. Your Uber Eats driver will be like, oh, yeah, I got you, man, 30 and 2.
Right.
Good tip. So that's a very modern approach. I think you're really being current with the times, with the demand of the people. Especially, it really was a aha moment for me. New parents who can't get out of the house, who need the training, you just go to them. Like, that makes a ton of sense to me. That's a really good idea.
Absolutely.
And then I hope that you have a Eagle One CPR first aid bag that you've built ready to sell too when you get there with the product.
Absolutely.
That totally makes sense, dude. That's I've always said that the best business ideas, when you hear them, you're like, oh, duh, If they make you go, duh, it's a great idea, And that's one of those. That's one of those right there. That was a duh moment. Like, even though it's not obvious, and even though it's not easy to think of, it takes a lot of tact and a lot of business aptitude to think of to do something like that. When you finally see it, you go, duh. It's like, the product. Have you ever seen? I'm just thinking of the first duh product that comes to mind. The handles for grocery bags. You can put 10 grocery bags on each side instead of having them up to your elbows. And then somebody finally makes that thing and they sell it at the As Seen on TV store, and you're like, oh, duh. Why didn't I think of that type thing? Those are the best ideas. Those are the most relevant, the most needed. People really appreciate them. Those types of ideas. That's exactly what that is. Yep. Yeah, great idea. Great idea. And I'm gonna segue. I didn't cut you off, Mike, did I?
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm going to segue that right into. I was going to ask you on something on your website that I really like that you have on here. Is when it comes to you, it says our aim and instruction is to be ready, to be quick in response, to be adaptive, and to be compassionate. Adaptive. That's being adaptive right there. Like, how can you get the training out to these people? Did you come up with this kind of
values?
Core values, yeah.
Yeah, these are my core values. This is that's the reason why I wanted to teach the classes, is because that's what we were taught before, and I just held to it, and that's why I ended it with compassion too, because a lot of times it's just memorize numbers, pump on top of chest when you're treating like a piece of meat. That's not what we're about. We're by their side, on the field. I mean, I had to deal with some of these guys, and we're Marines and all that other stuff, your Navy corpsmen would be tough and all that stuff. But when it comes down to what we like to say, patience now, it's like, hey, man, stay with me now. I'm here with you. You're giving them hope, right? Compassion starts. A always told people, first aid, CPR, AED, all that stuff, all the certification and whatnot, all that stuff always starts with compassion, which is hope. You have to start there, right? And so, adaptive. You have to be adaptive. You have to be think. You have to be quick as well too. So that's our aim. So we've always aimed for that.
That's really good. Is this? And I was going to ask you. You answered it already, but does that come from your corpsman background?
Absolutely.
All these things.
Absolutely.
The compassion is a big one for me because when I was reading the compassion part, what I was thinking was a lot of jobs, right? Like medic, any sort of medic, like when you were doing your EMT or CNA, was that certified nursing assistant?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would doctors do it? When police officers do it? If you're even like a martial arts self-defense instructor, what you're really doing is you're teaching people to prepare for what will surely be one of the worst days of their life. So you have to keep that in mind when you're doing it, that the end goal of what you're teaching is to prepare someone to act in the worst situations. And I think that applying compassion, empathy, and sincerity to those tasks goes a really long way, because when you're talking to you also don't know when you're talking to someone what they've been through in their past experiences too. So when you talk to somebody about self-defense, maybe they've been victimized. When you talk to somebody about CPR, maybe they've seen someone have a heart attack and die right in front of them, Yeah. So you never know who you're dealing with, and these are serious subjects. And if somebody's had prior experience with them, they can be I don't like the word triggers because it's so used to describe something like
guarded.
Yeah. So it could bring somebody back to a really horrible moment, Yeah. So I think it's good that you include compassion in everything. It makes a lot of sense, and it obviously comes from a place of sincerity from you, from experience, having been your military experience, where a lot of people think that, like you were just saying about being hard, being tough, nothing gets you, no emotions. Yeah. That's really not the case, right? Because the most compassionate acts I've ever seen in my life were from some of the toughest people I've ever seen, Right. And if you ever have been to I'm sure all of us have been to funerals of our friends who've been killed in the military, no one's being hard there,
Right.
It's sad, and that's okay. It's okay to feel those emotions, It's
Right.
compassion. So that's really good that you included that too. I just wanted to point that out because as far as core values go, I think you really nailed it. And you're obviously living them too. You can tell when you talk to you about your business and about how you do business. So onward from the heavy stuff. Your mission statement also starts with unpreparedness is not an option, right? Because once something happens, there's no time to prepare beforehand, right? So if you're listening to this, if you think, I hope that whoever's listening to this, do you ever get this? Do you ever feel like when you're teaching people, you encounter someone who has the "this is never going to happen to me" attitude?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always somebody, or it's usually the younger guys. That's what I can put it. Yeah, it's never gonna happen to me, and that sort of thing too. But just again, bringing it to people. Just think about your loved ones. Anything people you care about. Anything could happen at any moment in time. We never thought 9/11 would ever happen.
Yeah.
Right. None of that stuff would ever happen, but it happened. The thing is, can we be more prepared? Let's always be prepared, right? And there are people who just kind of I don't need that stuff. But the other thing too is that's where the edutainment comes in. And once they're entertained by it, they're like, looks like I can do this.
Yeah,
it'll stick with them too. They'll remember it.
Yeah. So
do you ever stress test in your classes?
Huh?
Stress test?
Do the stress test on them?
So
press them out?
Yeah.
Once I've worked them in and they have the understanding, I'll kind of push it in. And it's not like, so that's where I've become a little bit more softer. I'm no longer, they're freaking dead. Right? What'd you do? That sort of thing, right? It's all over the place, right? I just saw him why'd you do that? I don't know. It was just so natural. Okay, don't do that. Why did you do that? We just, for example, we talked about, why people just barely go into the baby's chest. I'm like, because I'll just have them do it first. They're like, oh, they're barely even getting to their chest. I'm like, I just want you to know that's natural, but that's not good because what do you need to do? Oh, yeah, I need to go deep enough to flatten out the chambers. right? So it's just working a lot of natural things. So I tell people, natural is not good, especially in an emergency situation, right? The panic mode, breathing, all that other stuff is just not, it's not natural. It's not really helpful, right? It's natural, it happens, but I'm always going to work through it because, again, that's what I learned in the military. All my natural stuff, all that came out. But guess what? Now that I messed up, okay, now I can do better, right? So I don't press them unless I'm definitely teaching like paramedics, firemen, stuff like that. I'll definitely press those classes, right? But for right now, it's just like, okay, we'll get the basics into it, and then after that, we start pressing a little bit more harder. So
I think that's exactly how it goes, right? That's the crawl, walk, run philosophy. When you're dealing with people who are already first responders, then they should be able to handle a little bit more.
Yeah.
Trained. And the truth is, many times if you do find yourself in an emergency situation, it goes without saying, going to be in less than ideal circumstances. Right. So you're never going to be like, I won't say never going to be. You're most likely going to be physically fatigued before or shortly after starting CPR, because adrenaline's a huge part of that too.
Yeah, that dump.
When real adrenaline kicks in and your heart starts racing, you get dry mouth, you start, heavy breathing, hyperventilating type feeling. If you're not used, especially if haven't been in a lot of super adrenaline inducing situations before like that, where it's real. It's different when it's real. It's different than adrenaline from a sporting event or something like that, or like when you slip on a stair but then catch yourself and you get that like, huh. It's more like that, like that. It kind of takes your breath away for a moment, and that's nothing, You just realize you almost got hurt, and then you're having like this. What's the system in your body that controls adrenaline? Is that like endocrine?
Yeah, the
endocrine response. And that's from nothing.
Yep.
When it's real, it's a really panic moment. And you have to control your breathing, control your thoughts.
Breathing comes in so crucial at those moments. Crucial. That's why it's great you say that. Hey, breathe. And I talk to people. I'm like, hey, this simple thing is like breathe in for a few seconds, out for a few seconds, control your heart rate, because then everything starts coming back to like, okay, where am I right now? Where's my situation? And I start
thinking
acting
it through, right?
Yeah.
You've heard of the whole breathe in the bag sort of thing. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know what the breathing on the bag thing really is? It's just to see how fast you're breathing. So that because you don't normally see you're breathing, right? So you just see how fast you're breathing. So you actually start to slow it down a little bit. You actually can think.
It's a psychological thing?
It's a psychological thing, actually. So
I feel a little gypped.
Yeah.
I feel a little gypped. I wasted money on the professional level bags, the breathing bags. Cool. Okay. This has been really good, I think. What do you guys think?
This has been awesome.
Great. Yeah.
We're up over to 1 hour. Usually after an hour, I start thinking about collecting our thoughts a little bit, closing thoughts.
Sure.
And before we get into some very special stuff, is there anything, Randy, that you want to talk about that we didn't get to today? Or any plug? Let's really quick. One thing I like to do when we get ready to close out is, again, kind of reintroduce your business and where we can find you and where people can reach out to you at.
Right. So, Randy Sarmiento, the first aid professor. Eagle One CPR is my business. You can catch us at www.eagle1cpr.com. My personal page for the first aid professor, for speaking engagements or even coming out to houses and teaching families to come out. You can check us out. Check me out. I'm always us, but check me out. thefirstaidprofessor.com. THE firstaidprofessor.com. And then Instagram at thefirstaidprof. And then also on Facebook, Eagle One CPR or the First Aid Professor as well too. So you can check me out all on those places.
Cool. And is there anything about the company or about first aid, life saving that you want to talk about that we missed?
No. Then we have to go through the whole class.
Yeah. That's going to cost you.
That's going to cost you. Right? To check out more, check out our classes.
Mike, do you got anything?
No, thanks for coming on. My older brother was a corpsman, and so I have tons of respect for what you guys do. It's a hard job, and it's just like you guys do a lot, and it's awesome seeing that when my brother was in. There's a compassion and it's a bond like he had with like the Marines he was with, and they were overseas in Iraq and all that. And even to this day, it's like they still call him Doc, like because he was there with them, and all that. So like, I have tons of respect for corpsmen. Like you guys are awesome. Yeah, so
we definitely had a lot of fun with them. Yep.
And I wanted to, I thought of something actually, and I'm not sure if you're still doing it or pursuing this, but I only briefly heard you mention it once. This was a while ago. Are you still working towards the Corpsman Museum?
I am trying to work that out. So I'm trying to get, moving a couple of things here and there. I hope, and this is another dream, okay, within the next 2 years, we get to have a Corpsman Museum. The Corpsman community, there's a big community. I mean, it's a small, big community, as we like to say it. And we always get tucked into the corner of the big museums, and I feel like we deserve our own. So I'm working on that right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let us know what we can do. If you are doing fundraising or spreading awareness or anything like that, let us know. We can help.
Yep.
And we do have something of a special announcement, right?
Yes.
So, Randy,
I get to announce it here on the Scuttlebutt Show.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Right?
We're also live. We're live on Facebook. Just
okay.
So you know.
Some sound effects.
Yeah. Oh wait, I have sound effects.
Use them.
Wait, what's the right sound effect for this? It's let me start with this. Wait, that didn't really set the mood right.
Yeah,
That's not scary. That one's for me. My bogus sound effects. Not good joke. We'll save that one for after. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do this. We'll start with this. Randy, do you have anything special coming up, like maybe a new position or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I'm proud to announce I am going to be the new San Diego city lead for Bunker Labs here with the VIR. So, passed down to me from the Marine rapper to the first aid professor. I never thought about that, but yeah, okay. So TMR gave me a call and said, hey, I need you to be the new city leader. And I just had to think about it a little bit through, but I just wanted to make sure that I'd be able to take care of Bunker Labs the way they've taken care of me. Because it was fantastic, and to be even in the running of this, or to even just say, hey, you're going to be the next guy up, next man up, I am truly honored, humbled. But I'm ready to go. Let's have some fun, and let's get this done too. So there it is. I'm the new San Diego city lead.
Congrats.
Yeah. If anybody doesn't get the weight of that announcement, the city lead's job, for one, it's a volunteer position. Two, they oversee all the events and all the individuals who apply for the Bunker Labs program, which is what the Scuttlebutt Show is a part of here. Bunker Labs, Veterans in Residence, powered by Bunker Labs, where we get to come in and work at a shared workspace in downtown San Diego and all across the country. It's a place where veterans can go host business events, meetings, use shared workspaces, bring in potential customers or investors. It really adds a layer of legitimacy and an incredible amount of value to any company and the equivalent value that you're getting, for one, basically priceless, but it would probably cost somebody $10,000 minimum cash to be able to do what we do here if you include conference rooms and workspaces and coming in, and there's the free food and drink and all the events and if you want to have a party, host an event like a social event for your business, all of that stuff goes right along with the Bunker Labs program. And what you're basically saying you're going to do is come in and support every veteran coming through here with and help them get through this program and improve their business and achieve their dream. Absolutely. Which is really, for you to have to, for anybody, the Marine rapper has done a great job. You guys know him. You've heard him on the show. He's incredible. He's done an incredible job. But to sit down, make the decision that you're going to give time, and I've talked about this on the show, the most invaluable thing that people can give is their time. to help other veterans out. I think that's incredible, man. Now I want to say thank you and congratulations on accepting the position. And we'll follow up and see how it's going. And you'll have, I'm sure, countless adventures and stories to share about veterans and residents here and the successes and the ups and downs, because they're sure to come. But it's good that we talk about the downs as much as the ups, because that's what you learn from. Your lessons learned after every mission, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you, Randy. We're going to do some CPR training. And if you guys want to see that, check out our Instagram and our YouTube at The Scuttlebutt Show. And make sure you get over to eagle1cpr.com. And in the website, it's the number one. So eagle1cpr.com. And the First Aid Prof, P-R-O-F, on Instagram. And the firstaidprofessor.com. And follow Randy Sarmiento. And if you need any first aid, life support, life-saving CPR training, then reach out to Eagle One CPR and get it scheduled. Yeah?
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode. Randy, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
And let's learn some CPR.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay. 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 Let's do it.
All right.